Ja, dis Mhlengi coach Lindie, gaan dit goed met jou Lindie?
Dit gaan uitstekend, regtig waar. Baie dankie.
Lekker, altyd goed om jou te sien want jy bring altyd sulke interessante mense saam. En vandag is geen uitsondering. Mhlengi Ngcobo, entrepreneur, speaker and investor. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Fine, thanks. Thanks, welcome. Lindie, you've got questions. Klomp vrae, lekker vir my wat jy vir my het. Kom, ons kan nie wag nie.
Welcome, Mhlengi, and for short, MM, and I'm just going to do that. I don't want to waste the time trying to pronounce your name. I'm very embarrassed to say. But you know what, Christy and listeners, every now and again, someone comes around my way, and I look at him and I go, oh my goodness, here's a young man. Can I say how old you are?
Yes, you can.
29 years old and putting the rest of us to shame. He's the owner, director of 5 companies. He started his coffee business. He told me just now with 150 Rand, it's valuated at over $1 million. And what I want to say is, you know what is an entrepreneur, MM? That's my definition. An entrepreneur is someone that experiences a problem in their own life and then think, hey, how can I solve this? And then think, you know what, there's actually an opportunity here, because if I've got this problem, other people have this problem, and there the business gets born. And that's exactly, do you agree with me in terms of what an entrepreneur is?
Yes, I fully agree with you. I think an entrepreneur is someone that solves a problem. And I think Mhlengi Ngcobo on Emit, he says that an entrepreneur is someone that sees a problem and finds a solution. And that particular solution, you need to be able to replicate it 1,000 times.
Yes.
So sometimes we get so fixated on the problem, but then an entrepreneur is the one that finds a solution.
Finds the solution. I love Michael Gerber, the E-Myths, by the way, brilliant book for all entrepreneurs or want entrepreneurs to read that, because it's about replicating the solution. Yes. Okay, but let's go back a couple of steps. You're the proud owner of CoffeeMM, and I think that's at this stage maybe your signature brand. But you're also the founder, owner of 5 companies. So I want to take you back, I don't know how long ago in your life where all of this started. So somewhere in your past, there was someone or something that inspired you and put you actually on this road to greatness. Can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Yes. So everything started when I was 13 years old. So there's a saying that says change happens when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of making a change. So when you get to a point in life where you are, you'd rather be anywhere else except where you are, then you know you have to change. So when I was 13, I was diagnosed with high blood pressure, and the doctor said someone with like such a high blood pressure would not live to more than a year. It's like my diastole was about 188, diastole is like 125 instead of the normal 120.
So high
65.
blood pressure off the charts.
Yes.
Okay.
So it was called young hypertension basically, and the doctor couldn't figure out what the problem was. But then they were like, okay, you need to stop taking caffeinated beverages, anything with caffeine, whether it's energy drinks or coffee or whatever. But then at that time, I didn't know what caffeine was. So I went to research, okay, what is caffeine and why should I stop caffeine? What's better about caffeine and what's the view? So at that time, I really didn't know much about coffee itself, like especially like with the specialty coffee. The only coffee I knew was just normal instant coffee. So then after researching, I was...
Which is, so by the way, not actually coffee, right?
Yeah, it's normally
so
chicory.
Yes.
Yes. But like, so after doing like research, I actually found that caffeine, there's nothing wrong with caffeine necessarily. And also the caffeine from coffee is very different to caffeine from energy drinks. That is like in a form of sugar, which is like carbohydrate.
Okay.
And how it gets dissolved in your body is very different.
A complete different chemical process.
Precisely, yeah. So then at that time I was like, okay, you know what? So I'm just going to focus more on understanding coffee, what makes it good. Then fast forward, when I was at university, I had to choose a project in like when I was doing project management. Like how do you then like, I had to choose a project that I was going to use to simulate like a program.
Yes, or a project, you know, start something from the scratch and then build it out to something feasible, right?
Yes, and then so me and my group we actually chose to run a coffee roastery.
Oh, lovely.
So which was such a nice coincidence because it was a commodity that I spent time on
researching already.
Yeah. And now I could actually find a way to commercialize it, especially with regards to like the processing part, like the roastery part.
So you source your beans, you roast your beans, and you've got currently one outlet in Stellenbosch, and you're currently in the process of opening another outlet in the Nielsey, you said.
Yes, in collaboration with Stellenbosch University.
So what's the thing about coffee? We talked about, all of a sudden coffee is just everywhere, but it didn't used to be like that. So what do you think drives the demand for great coffee? Where does that come from?
Well, I think that there's like some industry drivers, companies like Starbucks, Vida E, which is like also like a local company. I think those are companies that are driving the demand, or basically the trend,
or the awareness of a great cup of coffee.
Yes, but I think also just people are starting to understand how good coffee is, that there's nothing wrong with coffee, and also they put that in their lifestyles, like coffee and wine basically.
Yes.
And then so what we've seen on our research, people that are driving the trend or the market is like people like middle class, basically between the age of 18 to like 35-ish.
It's the in thing, right?
It's the in thing, yeah. It's like if you drink good coffee, then you are seen as like the person, basically.
You see, Chrissy, that's why me and MM is going to become the best friends, because anyone that proclaims coffee to be good for you, I love them already, because I love coffee. And I think you also mentioned, we'll get back to that after the break, but MM told me like a research shown that coffee is next to water the best possible thing you can drink and put in your body.
Yes.
What about beer?
Absolutely. Wow.
Beer must be somewhere there.
Beer comes third.
Beer comes third.
I like him already, you see.
You see, that's what I'm saying. We'll be back straight after. Thanks, Christy.
Black Coffee in Ashe met La 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 op Helleberg FM. Gedink jy weet, terwyl ons met 'n entrepreneur praat wat 'n koffiebesigheid het, ek gedink om daai en dit te speel, Lindie, is dalk nie 'n slegte idee nie.
Absolutely.
Maar jy's besig om te gesels met die entrepreneur Mhlengi Ngcobo.
That's it.
Ja,
So MM, a 29 owner of 5 companies. So just by the way, a wrap list of all the awards that he's been awarded. Founder of the Year Award nominee in 2021. Mail and Guardian Top 200 Most Influential in South Africa in 2021. The Tony Ilumezo Foundation Top 1000 African Entrepreneur 2021, 35 under 35 outstanding at Marty's Alumni, and the list goes on.
Wow.
So MM, I work with entrepreneurs the whole day, every day. Some fail spectacularly, others succeed amazingly well. So I want to ask you, what are your superpowers? What drives you? So why this burning passion to be a successful entrepreneur? Where does it come from?
Okay, so what actually drives me is wanting to make a difference. And I realized something that, like, when I was 13 and I was diagnosed with high blood pressure, and I was told that I may not live up to where I am today, basically, I realized that life is short.
Absolutely.
And life is not about how long you live. It's about how you live. And also, so if you can focus on making sure that every single day you do something that makes the world better,
oh my goodness, yeah.
and then that in its own, it's a motivation. It motivates you enough to wake up in the morning. And also, what drives me is realizing that what I'm doing is more than me. It's not about me at the end of the day. It's about making the world better. I don't think that we are brought on earth for ourselves.
Oh, wow.
I think we are brought here to make a change and make a difference, to make the world a better place.
And I agree with you. Maslow in his hierarchy talks about the tip of the iceberg is self-actualization. But if you think about it, it's about myself. And I think Maslow, right before his death, he talked about self-transcending. And that's the purpose of striving for something bigger than myself, to make a bigger impact. Is
Yes.
that what drives you, right?
Absolutely.
To make an impact?
Absolutely. And I feel so privileged because I got to realize that early on in life. And obviously that came from an adversity that I faced at that time. But then, I think it's a line between whether I give up or not. It's solely based on that. That okay, it's not about me. It's not about how I feel on that particular day.
You don't get the choice to give up. You're gonna continue.
No.
You see,
No.
so maybe you haven't said it, but the two things that I think that support you in your success is your natural curiosity to figure out things. You mentioned the fact that you've developed your own website. It's an e-commerce site. So once you've taught yourself, you'll do it and you create a business around it. So your natural curiosity,
Yes.
and then also not to give you the chance to give up, the determination and the courage to succeed, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And so when you talk about courage, I think it's courage to succeed and courage to begin again.
Absolutely.
And I think what makes a great entrepreneur is your ability to bounce back from failure and your ability to hold on in the midst of adversity, no matter what.
Okay.
But then it's like there's a thin line between holding on when you need to let go.
Sometimes one's got to let go, hey? I mean, it's just not going to work. So Matthew McConaughey says to become relative in the face of the undeniable, meaning I need to pivot, I need to change, I need to find a different way.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So obviously, though, that's been some lessons that you've learned in business, right?
Yes.
Anything that you feel specifically proud about? Any highlight that stands out that you know, when you look back, you really, I mean, I can see you smiling.
Yeah.
So there must be something, you know, what are some of the highlights you celebrate?
So mainly the highlight that I celebrate the most is not the achievements as you see there. It's rather the difference that my companies are making in community. And I'm just going to give you an example. Like last year, we trained about 300 learners in high schools, teaching them entrepreneurship, marketing, sales, working in collaboration with Meadows Foundation. So we're training high schools in Strand, Gordons Bay, Somerset West, Paarl, Franschhoek. So I think for me, like helping someone have hope in their life, whether it's especially like for young generation, I think that's like one of the highlights of my life, just knowing that there's someone out there whose life has been better because we've impacted their life. And then another thing is just creating employment for someone. So what I've realized is that like when you hire someone, work gives someone hope.
Yeah,
it gives them dignity.
Yeah, it gives them a sense of value as a person, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So like obviously it's like if in business you shouldn't just hire people just for the sake of hiring people, but then that's what makes me happy, knowing that like there's people whose life has been changed because of my ventures that I've created. Even with like my property venture, knowing that there is someone who has accommodation, a student who has had an opportunity to further their studies, you know, like the students that were some of my residents in some of my accommodation last year. The guy finished his master's. He was doing computer science. The other person finished. She was actually an exchange student. She finished her internship. And
you made a difference by assisting with accommodation, giving them a place to sleep, and in that way enabling them onto their lives, right?
Exactly. Okay. So I realized that like everyone deserves a fair chance.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't matter how small how small the difference we make, it's like we ought to make that difference. It doesn't matter how small it is.
I love that, and I think it's all about everyone else except ourselves, and the cause is bigger than ourselves. Well done, MM. We'll be back straight after this. I want to have an idea of where MM is going, so I'm going to ask him that important question when we get back.
To the moon and back, I suppose.
Yeah. The galaxy is your playground. Off you go.
Business Lunch with Lindie back after this. We're busy with Business Lunch with Coach Lindie. Lindie, a last session of questions and answers to this entrepreneur we have in the studio, Lindie.
Okay, lovely. We've got only a couple of minutes left. Mhlengi, MM, I want to ask you, where do you want to be? You know, it's the typical question, and just by asking it, I go, oh, everyone wants to always ask it. But I mean, it's important, So what's your vision for your future self? Where do you want to be in 5-10 years from now?
Okay. So, particularly with CoffeeMM, the plan is to take the company public in 2030. So obviously it's like if we're gonna go to Cape Town Stock Exchange, then we need like 6 years of like financial records. So everything starts from this year moving to 2030. So we want to take the company public and help people have equity. If someone has equity, then that can help them succeed to raise money with the bank.
And they share as a shareholder, and there's also a form of income, right?
Exactly.
Okay, lovely.
So that's what we want to do.
You want to list CoffeeMM in 2030. Lovely.
Yes. And then like long term is to actually have more coffee processing plants in the SADC countries. because like mainly what our company is about empowering small scale coffee farmers. That's what we basically all about.
Okay.
But then so it's like if we can have maybe more processing spaces in like SADC countries like Uganda, Rwanda, Ethiopia, where coffee originates from, then we can help the farmers to be able to export finished product to like a global market instead of exporting like.
So you
raw
also
beans.
want to get involved earlier in the delivery chain, empowering the producers and enabling them.
Yes, that's what
Okay.
actually drives our company. That's what our
Okay.
vision is all about.
You wrote down here books to read. Do you want to share a little bit about where you find inspiration in terms of knowledge? So maybe, a couple of top reads that you'd like to tell readers about?
Okay, so 3 books that I would actually recommend. The first one is Myth Revisited by Mhlengi
brilliant
Ngcobo.
book.
It's like, if you are going into business, then it's like you must read the book before you get into business.
Before you even print your business card, please read the E-Myth. Absolutely, I agree.
And then another one is Blue Ocean Strategy. So it's like there's a difference between Red Ocean and Blue Ocean,
Yes.
but the book is called Blue Ocean Strategy. It
Yes.
helps you in terms of like how to be innovative, how to drive innovation in the industry.
Yeah.
And then another one that's also in line with like the same like driving innovation is a book called 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel, the founder of
Lovely.
yes
So all of them about vision and growth and strategies for growth.
yes
I want to touch on something, What is your hope for South Africa? I mean, we're sitting in a right now before elections. People are set, oscillating between feeling hopeless and hopeful. So here you are, young entrepreneur, giving it your all. What's your hope for our country?
So my hope is that especially if we can have an impact in the education space and empower the generation that comes after us, and then our country is gonna be things are gonna be better. I realize that like one of the things that we struggle with is access to information. Although we've got devices and technology, but then access to, you have to be able to disseminate between the information that you have at your disposal. So, and one of the easiest ways of doing that is to reach out to schools. If, for example, like you can reach out to schools, high schools, primary schools, and maybe help them with like reading skills and help them with entrepreneurship. I think that what's going to make a difference in our country is entrepreneurship. We need to think entrepreneurial. It's not going to help us if we are thinking about
Always
being
looking towards
employed.
the government to come and solve our problems.
Yes.
It's not going to happen, right?
Yes, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So I think like education is one of the most important things, particularly teaching people about being independent.
Yeah, and solve their own problems
Solving
and come up with
problems.
ideas. And I think the whole thing around entrepreneurial spirit, and where do I even start? How do I think?
Yes.
Maybe even a thinking process around
Yes.
being an entrepreneur.
And we already have it. It's quite interesting because when you go to a lot of townships, almost 1 in 3 houses has a business of
There's a
some sort.
micro economy going on.
Precisely.
Yeah, because they just got to make ends meet. And,
Yes.
Yeah. So these kids grow up in those environments. Now we just need to formalize it into education, right?
Yes, and also like we need to teach people to grow a business from a survivalist business to a micro business,
To
a
a
small
profitable
business.
enterprise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like, and I think that takes usually people start a business because they need to survive. But then they need information for them to grow their business from survivalist to like a bigger venture.
Yeah, I
basically.
often say you grow your business to the level of your own skill and understanding, and that's so true.
Yes.
So I don't know about you, Christy. MM has again just inspired me about the importance of being a role model. I want to congratulate you really out of my heart because it's a tough space to be at the top. So eyes are on you, and you're doing an exemplary job of motivating and inspiring people. So congratulations, and I want to wish and pray on you all the love, all the success, to just go from strength to strength. Maybe a final word, and then where can listeners find you? A final word, and how can listeners get hold of you to meet you maybe, or even taste your wonderful coffee?
Okay, thank you so much, and I'm very happy to be here today, and thank you for taking the time to actually do this interview with me. So people can actually find me at CoffeeMM. It's like, I think that's where like our website is like CoffeeMM.co.za, Instagram, Facebook, everything is CoffeeMM. And then we are based in Stellenbosch. Our coffee shop is in Co-Create Hub, which is Stellenbosch town. We're opening another one at the Nelson with the university. It's going to be called the Marty's Coffee Hub. And then we also based in Blankenberg, where we do our coffee processing, like the coffee roasting. So that's where people can reach me. But Facebook is Mhlengi Ngcobo.
Okay,
Yeah,
lovely.
easy to
So I'm inspired, and thanks again for our lovely gift. MM,
Yeah, thanks a lot.
I think I just want to proclaim this is the start of a wonderful relationship. I just want to get involved and teaching kids how to become really MM prototype. Shall we do that?
I must say, just back to the books quickly that you read. I read a book, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yes.
I ended up the poor one. So it didn't help. It didn't help me at all.
Oh my gosh, Christy, that's funny. Okay, but so by the way, tongue in cheek, that is a great book to
It
read
is.
for anyone
It is.
out there.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Lindie. Always a pleasure to have you, and the best of luck for you for the future.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and thanks for your time today. Lindie, ons sal weer volgende week dan sien donderdag tussen 12 en 3, 12 en 1.
Same place, same time, different day.
Wonderlik, lekker dag. Praat
Thank
weer.
you, Christy.